Humans, you ever look back at a situation and think, damn, I knew better? Like deep down you felt it. A little voice in your head, that subtle nudge in your gut, the red flags waving loud, but you stayed anyway. You entertained it anyway. You justified it anyway. Yeah, that was your intuition, and you ignored it again. And let's be honest, every time you silence your intuition, you pay a price. Maybe it's your peace. Maybe it's your time. Maybe it's your dignity. Whatever it is, it costs something. And the longer you ignore that inner knowing, the more expensive it gets. So, what's the real cost of not listening to yourself? And more importantly, why do we keep doing it? Because that's what we're unpacking today. Welcome to Vibes and Affirmations, where there's a thin line between crashing out and keeping it all together. I'm your host, G. Your favorite voice of reason is sometimes chaos. And today, we're unpacking the sacred truth that your intuition is always right and it always knows first. But what happens when you don't trust it? What's really on the line when you override your own knowing? We're talking about the silence you held when your soul was screaming. That gut feeling you labeled as paranoia. The moment where your spirit whispered, leave, and you said, let me give one more chance. Today is not about shame. It's about awareness. It's about learning how to trust yourself again. Not just when it's convenient, but when it's uncomfortable. So let's talk about the why, the what, the how of trusting your intuition and stop paying the emotional tax of ignoring our truth. Let's get into it. Before we dive in, let's ground ourselves with today's affirmation. Are you ready? I trust myself. My intuition is real. And I honor what I feel. Say it out loud. Let it live in your chest. I trust myself. My intuition is real. And I honor what I feel. Today's affirmation is one of self-trust, because navigating emotional chaos means learning to come home to yourself again and again. Because the more we ignore our inner voice, the harder it becomes to hear through the noise. Every time you silence your instincts for the sake of comfort, validation, or vibes, you further away from your own truth. But today, we're changing that. We're choosing clarity over chaos. We're choosing to believe that you already know, and that knowing, that's power. Let's start with the basics. What is intuition really? Some call it a gut feeling. Others say it's a spiritual download, energy, a vibration, a whisper from your higher self. Whatever language you use, intuition is that subtle knowing, the quiet nudge that something is off or something is aligned. And yet we ignore it, not because we don't feel it, but because it's not always convenient. Sometimes your intuition shows you the truth before you're ready to accept it. It tells you they're not good for you before you're ready to let them go. It tells you you're not happy before you're ready to leave. And that discomfort, that's why so many second guess the very thing trying to protect us. When was the last time you ignored your gut and regretted it later? Think back to that moment. You felt something was off. You sensed it in your body before your mind could ever name it. Maybe it was a slight shift in tone, an unanswered message, a red flag. You brushed it off as it's just a bad day. You told yourself it wasn't that deep, but deep down, you knew. What did it cost you to ignore the knowing? How long did it take before the truth revealed itself anyway? Do you trust yourself, or do you constantly look outside for answers? Be honest. When life feels uncertain, do you go inward or immediately seek validations from your friends, your timeline, tarots, or strangers online? Do you delay decisions until someone tells you what you already know? Because if your first instinct is to second guess yourself, it's not about not knowing. It's about not trusting. What would your life look like if you believed yourself the first time? What's one red flag you saw but chose to rationalize? And how did that unfold? Maybe they showed you who they were early on, but you told yourself it was just bad timing. Maybe you saw their inconsistency, the emotional distance, the selfish patterns, and still convinced yourself they'll change. What lie did you tell yourself to keep the connection? And when did it finally fall apart? Did you realize you weren't blindsided? You were just hoping that you were wrong. Let me be honest. I've ignored my intuition so many times. Sometimes because I didn't want to make the situation awkward. Sometimes because I thought I was being too sensitive. I overthink too much. And sometimes I just didn't want to face the truth. But the truth always shows up louder, clearer. And every time it did, I was left sitting there quiet, knowing I already seen this coming from a mile away. I seen all the signs. I knew the outcome. I felt it. I just didn't want to listen. Your intuition is not paranoia. It's not drama. It's not you doing too much. It's your inner wisdom speaking up. It's the version of you that already knows how the story ends, trying to keep you from reading through the unnecessary pain. Let's really talk about it because ignoring your gut doesn't just create a little emotional turbulence, it adds up. And the cost, whoo, forget about it. It comes in time, energy, peace, and the way you see yourself. Every time we ignore that subtle gut whisper that something feels off, we end up spending twice as much time cleaning up the mess that we could have avoided. You know the vibe. You give them one more chance and another, and now it's 6 months later. And you're emotionally exhausted from trying to fix something that was never aligned. The gut spoke. You muted it. Now you're drained. Behind on your own healing. Ignoring your intuition doesn't just delay the truth, it delays your peace. When you constantly override yourself, you burn out emotionally. And not because it's what the other person did, because you already knew better and didn't act on it. Think about it. You accept a job you knew wasn't for you. They talked over you in the whole interview. The vibe was cool. The pay didn't match the stress, though. But you said yes anyway. Now you're waking up tired, coming home miserable, wondering why do you feel disconnected from yourself? When you ignore yourself enough times, you don't get exhausted. You get resentful. And that resentment is not towards them, it's towards you, yourself. Loss of self trust. This one is the deepest one. It cuts so deep because the more you betray your inner knowing, the harder it becomes to hear it. You start looking outward for answers you already have. You second guess yourself and every decision. You don't move until someone else says it's okay. And suddenly, your confidence gone. When your default becomes, let me ask someone else instead of let me just ask me, that's when you know that self-trust muscle has gone weak. And listen, trusting yourself is a muscle. The more you use it, the stronger it gets. If you keep skipping reps every time you know and don't act, every time you choose comfort over clarity, you lose a little faith in your own voice. Let me ask you something. If you keep second guessing yourself, at what point do you actually start believing your own judgment? Like, seriously, how long are you going to pretend you didn't see it coming? How many more situations are you going to walk into knowing you're compromising your peace? And at some point, it stops being about them. It starts being about you. Your intuition doesn't need to be perfect, just present. You don't have to have all the answers, Sway, but you do have to start listening to the ones that already live inside you. Because self-trust isn't built in the big moments. It's built in the small choices where you said, I knew and I acted on it anyway. Let's slow it down for a second because I already know some of y'all are having little mini flashbacks to that moment where your intuition wasn't just whispering. It was screaming, stomping, lighting up every red flag in the universe. And you still kept going. You still said, let me see how this plays out. And listen, I get it. I've been there, done that, ignored the gut, paid the price. But this isn't a space for shame or self-dragging. This is a judgment-free zone. We're not here to beat ourselves up, so relax. We're here to wake up, though, heal forward, and move better. So take a deep breath, unclench your jaw, and ask yourself the real questions. Here's what I want you to sit with today. If my gut had a voice, what it would be saying to me right now? Would it be asking me to leave something behind? Would it be telling me to stop settling? Would it be warning you again? Now pause. Do you actually want to hear it? Or are you afraid of what it's going to say? Because sometimes the truth isn't unclear. It's just that we're not ready to face it. When was the last time I ignored my intuition? And what did it cost me? Go there. Was it a person, a job, a decision you made for someone else's comfort instead of your own clarity? What was the emotional receipt? Was it stress, regret, a delayed version of the truth that you already knew? If I trusted myself more, how would my life be right now? Would it be different? Would I be in a different relationship? Would you have avoided that burnout? Would you be more peaceful, more aligned, more confident? Sometimes the only thing standing between who we are and who we're becoming is the version of us that won't listen to our inner knowing. Here's the shift. The past is archived. We can't do nothing about that no more. We're not crying over old intuition that we didn't follow once upon a time. We're learning from it. We're adjusting from this moment on. We're treating our own intuition like the gospel because it is. You are the CEO of your peace, the boss of your own energy. Start running your life like you believe that. Say it one more time. I trust myself. My intuition is real and I honor what I feel because next time your gut speaks. Don't leave it on red, bro. At the end of the day, your intuition isn't some vague vibe or distant voice. It's you, the highest version of you, and the most aware, the most emotionally intelligent, the most aligned version of you trying to guide you forward. So if there's something that's been pulling at you, if there's a choice, a person, a situation that doesn't sit right with your spirit, stop brushing it off. Stop over explaining it to yourself. Stop waiting for someone else to validate what you already know because intuition doesn't yell, it whispers. And the longer you ignore it, the louder the consequences will become. Trust yourself, your body, your energy, your gut. They're always communicating. You don't need more signs. You need to trust yourself a little more. You already have all the answers, Sway. That's it for today's episode of Vibes and Affirmations, where the truth isn't always easy, but it's always necessary. If this message hit home, share with someone who's been second guessing themselves lately. Until next time, humans, stay solid,
Stay
and keep
solid.
vibing.
Keep vibing.